2, 1. Welcome to the Dynasty Podcast. Holy shit, I am joined by the full crew today. My name is Corey Sal Paradiso, and we have the wonderful Mr. Frenchie Roman Weiser here, Mr. Ben Jesus Ziegler, and none other than the commish himself, Mr. VETO Corleone. Dan James! Holy shit, man. I feel like we're in kind of the presence of royalty with you here, Dan. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us. We're all excited to have you. I know Frenchie got up this morning at like 7 o'clock in the morning, had 2 extra cups of coffee because he was so excited to talk history with you. Dude, thanks so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys having me. Appreciate you guys doing this. It's fantastic. I enjoy listening to them every week. And so I enjoyed meeting some of the other owners this way, and I think it's just fantastic.
Cool. And Dan, we were kind of catching up a little before because I didn't know a lot about you, but you're actually from Arkansas. I think you're the first person that I've ever met
live in
from
Arkansas. I've lived in Missouri and different parts, Georgia for a minute, but so some different parts, but currently working here and having to go different directions. So that's pretty cool.
And you're a lawyer by trade. How does that help you to be a commish in one of the most crazy leagues ever in BC?
I don't know if it actually helps because generally what you'll find is most of my typing is really bad. And so when you have a secretary that gets to do all your stuff and then you have to do all your own typing, you realize how bad you are at it.
That makes sense. So I think, we were talking again a little bit. I mean, I can't imagine some of the stories you had, but I specifically was told that there's a reason why you have your team name, VETO Corleone. So can you go into a little bit of how that came about and what the veto was?
I actually did. I looked that up for you.
Oh, perfect.
I didn't remember. So I'm going to look at my notes here because it was like a much bigger trade than I had remembered. It was like 8 players for 10 players.
Yeah, it's huge. I remember as a mom.
So 8 for 10. Wow.
Yeah, I came into the league in 2016. And okay, so my original team name was Midway Monsters.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I moved down some notes from that. So I finished second place in my first year.
And we're talking about BC, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I went back and looked at the roster, and I think y'all would be a little shocked that if you looked at that roster and compared it to even teams that you think are not good today, probably would have beat me. I had 18 active players. I had 18 active players on this roster. And so I essentially went second place, and I lost. I remember losing to a team that I felt like I should not have lost to, and I only really had Russell Wilson, I think Tyler Lockett as a rookie or second year guy, and Melvin Gordon, and I was starting zeros at half my defense, and the other half wasn't good at all. So it was pretty bad. It was a pretty for today's standards, it's fun. It was fun to go look back on it and see how much the league has evolved contract-wise and depth-wise for the players that are on teams. Because
all the rookie contracts, right?
Yeah,
like all the rookie contracts now, you can see there's like more leveraged spending in spots, and you can spend high and spend low. But back then, I remember it was just like you could only get so many players.
Yeah, I literally I was starting like one starting linebacker, no DNs that had a starting spot at all. I don't even think I had one corner starting. I mean, it was pretty bad. And but it's funny because like I remember, Corey, when you said that you came in, you looked at the team, I was probably a build like what you have and what Jason has on his orphans team would have kicked the shit out of my team.
So to my point, you can have one starting linebacker and make it to the finals.
Yeah, you really can. And so, I think things have evolved a bit since then. But I felt like I had a good team because I had like 3 studs, and they were pretty much carrying the team over. So it was pretty interesting. So to go into 2017 when they had the trade. So I actually won the league in 2017. So my first 2 years, I went second place and first place. And in 17 was the veto trade, 8 players for 10 players. And so I'm going to read my notes here on who I actually got in this trade.
2017, right? All right. I got to put my
2017.
brain back into the rosters
Yeah.
back then.
So I traded with Wahoo's, and I don't remember who he is. I remember the team name. And he was giving me, it sounds like a lot here, Sean Lee, Shazier, safety Darius Butler. I looked at his numbers. It was terrible. Chicolo, Tyron Walker, Kendall Wright, and Cam Jordan was really the best player on this list. He had a really good year that year. That was a year Shazier played a little bit, and then he's done.
And got hurt, right?
Got hurt.
At the
And
time of the
Sean Lee
trade,
just had-
Shazier was like a top 5 linebacker, I think, before he'd gotten that
Right.
crazy.
So it looked really lopsided, I think, because Shazier was having a good year. Cam Jordan had a good year. Sean Lee, when he was playing, had a good year, but he missed like half the league season. And
Like every year.
yeah. And so I was giving him Kenny Stills, who had a good year for me the year before and was having a good year. Robert Kimdichie, when they thought he was going to be really good and he was young. Rookie linebacker Elijah McGuire, who was making some noise. Tony Jefferson, the safety, who was good at the time. Don Terry Poe. Jihad Ward, who was drafted as a DN. I eventually moved to like tackle, I think. But he played with DN, and so but they were all cheap contracts. So I was giving a lot of cheap $3 and $6 contracts, and I was getting better named guys with 1-year deals because he was out of it. He wasn't playing for that year. He traded me better named guys for cheaper.
And this is coming off of you winning 1 year and then finishing second and then winning, and then you're making this deal?
No,
No. This is the year he won it.
Oh, okay.
So I finished second. I had a good team. I was steamrolling. I might have even went close to undefeated. And so
He probably won the league because we vetoed the trade, to be honest.
and when you look back on it, the players were fairly insignificant because
Shazier would have gone out, and then Sean Lee's out. Like all the real meat of that. I mean, Cam Jordan, I think, was really good that year, but
was the bulk of the DN. So because he had finished with a good year, and so
and what was the reasoning? So what was the reasoning that it was vetoed, or what was the big fuss
one
about?
guy felt it was super lopsided. I went back and read the notes on it. Georgia agreed with him. It looked pretty lopsided.
I remember Georgia being in that mix.
But back then I think there was a few more vetoes back then. One player, I think
there was vetoes.
A couple years, backwards when we had, like I said, I was in second place with like 3 skill guys. One player made a lot of difference. I think it matters a little bit less now. I think you see trades go through now with people understanding a little bit more of people evaluating longer term contracts.
And cap too. I think people really understand how you start freeing up a couple, just thinking about that trade, you're probably freeing up $150, $200 in cap and some long-term stuff. I think you're right. I think probably matured to the point where we see the value in it.
So at the end of the day, the trade was vetoed. You were not obviously happy about it in the short sight, but it probably worked out for you long term. But then you kind of just took on this new persona as Vito Corleone
in all leagues too.
In all
he changed his name in every league. It was awesome.
I didn't do it in Thrones, and I wanted to change it in Game of Thrones.
Right.
But I decided to go ahead and keep the Game of Thrones
theme
that we had going on with the team name. So I kept my Unsullied team name.
Roman, I'm gonna throw Roman and I under the bus because I remember what I did. Roman, do you remember if you voted against the trade?
I think I did vote against it.
Yeah, I definitely remember that I did vote against it as well. Hindsight, I kind of feel like an ass about it, so I'll apologize here, Dan. But you got that sweet name because of it, so
I did. I got the sweet name,
stoked.
And now you're really gonna love it because now we've got taken it a step further. So the big news.
Oh yeah, sure.
The
Let's
big
jump into it.
news. So Chris told me when I took over the leagues, he had paid for the websites and whatnot for a couple of years. So we had a little bit of time, and people have asked about some where we see the rules that are more updated. So it's here. Get ready.
Nice.
Yeah.
Godfather Fantasy Football.
Awesome.
Godfather Fantasy Football. I love
Thank
it.
you.
Yes. So
I'm not gonna lie, Dan. In your black getup, it looks like you just buried a few people in the desert. I'm
but
totally
my
into it.
air is out today. I actually feel like I really want to do that. Yes, my air is out. I'm waiting on them to come fix it. So, yeah,
I
got
want
the
to
shovel ready.
And since I've been in those leagues for a long time with you, I want to publicly thank you for stepping up as a commish.
Yeah,
I
huge,
thought
man.
for a while that those leagues would be gone when Chris decided to give it up, and myself included, and I couldn't do it. So I was so happy to see someone like you stepping up and did everything you did, and I think it wasn't easy, but I think you did a great job, and I really thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate
Times
it. I know,
two.
you know, we all love this, and I didn't want it to go away either. And you know, I wasn't really ready to take on that, and I didn't really realize what it would be to take on. I had been a assistant commissioner in my live league, and but it's a whole different ballgame. There's so much more to it. And as I got into doing more of the back work in it, I realized what happened. I mean, he had to have burned himself out. 12 leagues. What him and Brian built is fantastic. I mean, and so props to those guys. And it's fantastic leagues, and they run great. And we're all enjoying the benefits of the labor that they put in it. And I know at one point Chris was doing it by himself. I guess I don't know. At what point Brian tapered off of his activities or whatever. So, I can imagine it burn him out. And so I'm trying to. I know I keep putting posts, and I'm trying to dip my toe in the let's add another league and make sure. But I want it to be a good league. I want it to be worthwhile. I want people to come and stay in it. But I don't want to start adding 3 and 4 more leagues. I don't want to do that to myself.
Yeah.
Keep the ones we have, keep them high quality, keep everybody engaged and interested, and find things that people want to do. But I want to hopefully not repeat that.
So Dan, a little bit more about the announcement then. So there's a new website that's already
Yes,
built
so
and live. Can the owners go check it out? What
can
kind
go
of
to
new
the website.
what kind of new
Look at-
capabilities does it have, or what are some of the
It's
things?
really
that
going to look like. I mean, it's really going to look like the Paragon site. And,
Okay.
So it's if you can go to it. I'm going to try not to because
I can do it from my my screen.
You can go to it. I was going to try and link it in on so people could click on you click on the banner at top and just go.
Yeah. What's the actual website name?
It's godfatherfantasyfootball.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Love it.
So I'm going to set the link up and all that, but you can go to it. I'm still playing with a little bit. The template give me some fits. So you'll see the logo, and then when you scroll down, because I got a gap, which is irritating me, and I'm trying to figure out how to replace that. I might have my logo person resize it to where, but I think it's mostly about the template that I use. But I wanted to get the content on there so everybody can see it. And so some cleanup that should be revised rules for blue chip and thrones and contract killers.
Awesome.
And so if you scroll all the way down, you'll see the different tabs. You can click.
I'm not there yet. I'm having some technical difficulties on the fly
So
here.
let's see.
I mean, I have it up, but I'm trying to get it to where it can be shared without shutting our recording down. So you just have to bear with me here.
I got a time killer real quick.
Yep.
Dan, here's a question. How does it feel to walk away from the chat in Blue Chip for 8 hours and come back and realize 3 people quit the league and the entire place has been lit on fire?
Oh my gosh. Oh, it was rough. I'm like, what is going on around here? It's, you know.
Yeah, that was one of my questions too, Dan. Is like you've had to have some pretty interesting situations as a commish. Like what has been either like the most strange situation without naming names that you've been in, or what are some of your kind of high level pet peeves of what you have to deal with on a day to day basis?
I'll be honest with you, I don't really have a lot of issues. I don't get, it's not irritating when somebody calls and asks, or, emails me, asks me questions. To me, I guess there's no stupid questions. These are complex leagues, and some folks get things, and some don't as fast. And it doesn't bother me. So to try and get into my quick story here, I will tell you my most irritating thing happened to me this year, and it was not in blue chip, and I'm not going to call out his name, but I am going to talk about him. So in Game of Thrones, we're doing the fees, and it's, we're in April, May. Okay, so we changed the rules. The fees were due in March. Used to be March 1st. Now it's April 1st. So I send out emails to the guys that have not paid the fees, and we had a waiting list in Thrones. Like 3 people were waiting to get a team. I had one that had already paid. Mr. Osborne in Blue Chip he was getting in the other leagues, and so we're waiting to find teams. And I'm like, Game of Thrones we call like the sleepy league a lot because it's not active. You can write in the chat and come back 2 weeks later, and that same chat's still on the chat board. So I got a response from an owner, and I'm like, look, man, we got to get these fees paid. We got people waiting to get league, and everything else is kicking off. We need to go. And he said that apparently he must have had a problem with me because it's a sleepy league. Last year, I made a message board post and put 3 teams' name in it. Like, there's a rule: you can't disappear during the season, or your team's abandoned. And you have guys that will disappear for weeks and weeks, and during the season.
Wow.
And it's amazing that league is so competitive with 3 or 4 owners constantly not there. Yeah. And so I'll put their name. He held a grudge. He felt like I called him out personally or something because I put their team name in the chat in the message board post. Anyways, so I'm asking him to pay his fees, and he called me a cunt licker, cunt face, cunt bastard. He used cunt at least 2 or 3 times. And I said, hold on, you were supposed to pay your fees March 1st. It's after April 1st. You had a good team. You built like a good little team. Like, I could have taken your team and given it to somebody at any point in time. I'm trying to be nice, knowing that we pushed that rule back. I don't want to slap you in the face. Hey, it's our first time we're using this rule. We moved the fees. I mean, you should have been paid. You should have been paid on March 1st. The whole rule say March 1st. It's April 1st. You haven't paid the fees. And I'm just trying to get things moving along, and you're calling me an asshole. And so he was very, very ugly. Very ugly. And so I'm like, man, that's the last time I do that for you. So in my final response to him, I said, don't be 1 day late paying that fee next year, motherfucker. And that was my response. So
he's still in the league? I don't need to know who it is.
I would have. If
I'll know who he is when he gets kicked out on March 2nd or April 2nd or whatever it is.
And he had a good team. Like, somebody would have loved to have that team. He would probably fuck it up because.
Hey, Roman or Ben, can you make sure that you post this in the chat room in Game of Thrones for us, please? Just want to make sure that we get this out to all the possible viewers out there.
You want to explore the space.
Yeah, just explore. We need more viewership. So
I'm like, I was toasted, man. Damn,
I have an idea.
I'm doing you a solid. I'm not selling you a really good team for you not paying the fee on time. And man, I just got blasted.
Got a lot of hotheads in fantasy football, Dan. A lot of hotheads.
And he might have been having a bad day or something or whatever. But
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine. I told you I thought that the situation that happened this year was you just handled that, calm, cool, and collected. Not everybody's going to agree with the decisions you make, day to day, year over year. And we've all done our fair share of, commissioning smaller leagues and whatnot. To echo Ben and Frenchie's point, just thanks for doing this. We really appreciate all the hard work you put in. If we have more time, we can dive into some additional stories. But you're more than just the commish. You're also a hell of a fantasy football GM as well. So we kind of want to take some time to dig into the Big 12. I think
do that. Hey, look, I do a lot of things to help you. I want to help you guys too. Okay, I'm a hell of a promoter. Okay, so right here, brought to you by Dynasty is brought to you by Dr. Squatch.
Oh, nice.
Smell like a man. So Dr. Squatch, you need to send these guys some money for the very good promotions you're getting right here.
Oh, thank you, Dan. We
Yes.
appreciate that. We're working on that. Our promotional teams kind of had the last few weeks off, but we have some things in the works. Once we get above 30 viewers, we might actually try to get some sponsorship deals. So we'll see.
A strip pole in the back with somebody twirling around it will increase that viewership too.
So far, the use of the see you next Tuesday and some of the language on the show has prohibited some of the more commercial sponsors, if you will. So we have to find the right sponsorship partners for the Dynasty podcast. But we're in the works on a lot of those deals. So don't you worry about us. We're smart gentlemen. So Ben, I think you were open to start this week. With the review of the Big 12. I can't remember exactly. I think you had Vito's right off the bat, and then we're going to have Vito's defense of his own team. So that'll be interesting. We're going to try to make this segment for the listeners out there a little bit more crisp. It's not a reflection of not taking the analysis seriously as we move down, but we just want to make sure that we're rapid firing through it and not laboring too much through the analysis. So take it away, Ben. Give us your analysis of Vito's team. And Vito, try not to interrupt him until he punishes you deeply.
Okay.
Corey, you going to bring up the screen or should I just ad lib?
Oh, yeah, I can do that. I'm just
for the viewers. I won't be making a career out of it or anything.
Nope.
Actually, I do like that Vito said, I think it was before we went on, that he's got one of his more favorite teams he's had in this league. Because when I looked at his roster up and down, it looked like I made it. And by that, I just mean he forms teams very similar to the way I do, where you kind of want to just make sure you're not really exposed in any given section, have a couple studs where they are, and try and put some upside around everywhere. So for me, this was an easy team for me to review.
You're on the right side here, Dan, or Ben.
Yeah, I got you. So, he's got two good studs there with Eckler and Edmonds, and then after that, it's dicey, but that's I usually try and play that game too. If I can get two good studs that I can count on, set and forget, I like that. And then if, you get some special teams tackles from another great. So, you'll see on his wide receivers, AJ Brown is going to be a beast. It's going to be great. There's a couple unknowns with some upside. I mean, Keelan Cole could carve a role. I don't know how that's going to look, but I like Josh Reynolds because I think he's going to be the number 3. I thought a little down on Slayton because I just don't know what that's going to look like, but it could still work out. I like the price of Tyrell Williams at 129. I like that when it went out, especially because Perriman went way more, if I remember. And I think Tyrell Williams is probably the guy who's going to get the number 1 job to start out the gate. So if that works out really good for him, he's going to have a really nice set of wide receivers run there. Tight ends, I'm sure he would admit, are probably his weak spot. If Blake Jarwin can lasso that job, then it's probably a moot point. But right now, it's kind of I've been in this position a lot. I hate spending a shitload of money on tight ends. I've done it in the past. It just kills the rest of my roster. So you have some guys you can plug and play. That works out good. A couple solid D tackles. Not going to have an issue there. D end, I'm really high on Leonard Williams this year. I think he goes to that Giants scheme, and I think he's going to be really good. DJ Wanham and some of these other guys Jordan Jenkins and they're going to be in the mix for snaps, maybe a starting job. DJ Wanham's probably a 10% chance of getting a starting DN spot, but he should get good snaps. I think Jordan Jenkins, if I remember right, might actually be in the mix for the starting job there. So if some stuff works out, he'll end up having some good DNs, but having Leonard Williams, possibly, I think he's going to go for 200 this year. So that might like make up for the rest of it. And then linebackers, you got Miles Jack sitting there at a good price. Holding down the anchor. I like Singleton a lot. I'm sure Roman could probably touch on what he thinks about him this year, but I thought that $85 price tag was pretty good considering how expensive linebackers were. And, some guys can fill in. I think Jermaine Pratt's going to be in the mix for a big role, so that one could really work out. Malik Harrison is going to be getting more snaps. So, and then Baron Browning's in the mix too to get snaps there. So that's like a good mix of some upside guys. You only need some of them to kind of work out by the end of the season when you're maybe dealing with injuries and stuff.
Hey, Ben, if
And
you don't mind,
go ahead, bud.
if you don't mind, Singleton had the second most snaps for the Eagles last year. So $85, pretty cheap.
Yeah, I thought so too. So cornerbacks, you can tell there's not a lot of studs. I like Levi Wallace in a bounce back. I think they're in Buffalo, but they got a lot of guys there. We'll see how that works out. I like actually Harrison Hand in Minnesota. He's like probably might be like sneaky, if not this year, but maybe long term. And then you just got guys, you just need them to work out. That's fine. I don't like having that many corners, but I've been in that position when you're not certain at the position. You can see he's not spending a lot of money on it, so that's fine with me. And then I'm in this spot constantly, which is like basically two safeties I know are going to work out, and then praying to God they don't get hurt, which is pretty much what he's got going with Sorensen and Marcus Mays, right? So
what's up with the 46 players there, Vito? Isn't that
hey man, you're stealing my thunder, man.
My bad.
I wanted to see if we were gonna get him to cut his 46 guy on air. I mean, I thought
I forgot.
I saw it as well.
What about
Wow.
Josh Allen upside?
Yeah. So of course, sorry, the quarterback position, we skip over that a lot because I'm so pissed off this year about how cheap quarterbacks went. I feel like it's almost impossible to talk about. But he has, with Josh Allen, every week he can go so off. He can make up a lot of points at a lot of other positions. I think it's really good. And then he's got a little old Jabril Cox sitting there as a little sleeper. I think if it's not this year, I think you're going to see by next year, Jabril Cox is going to be really anchor for that defense. I think they got a lot of figuring out there for now, but I like that by the end of the year, if he's in the playoffs, that could be a guy who's starting that's getting him 20 points if he hits the right spot. If it just depends on how that goes. But top to bottom, I mean, it's a solid team, man. Like I good balance and some good studs to lean on. Not a ton of glaring weakness, but again, like I feel like the same looking at my team. It's just like I'm a couple injuries away in a couple spots to just being like, oh God, this is getting ugly, But that's the nature of the blue chip. We always were used to that. You're seeing a little more security with some teams that can balance out a little better. Just like we were talking about as these rookie contracts, and you have more players cheap kind of going around. It gets a little easier to field the team. So that's my review.
What's the cap situation look like next year? How many people do you have falling off? Do you know off the top of your head, Ben or Vito? Looks like
how much cap he's getting back.
Yeah, I always like to look at like where they open up next year too, and draft capital as well. I don't know if you reviewed that, but good kind of long-term analysis.
Yeah, I mean, he's got. I mean, let's see. I didn't see a lot on 1 year, doesn't he?
So it looks about 100.
Here's what it is. I got the two things that I got. I'm sorry. I got the two things that I got, the bad things I got to say about this roster. One, Austin Eckler at that price in his second year is like going to be really a problem next year. I mean, he's got to be really elite still. And, and that's a good chance. But we're starting to get a $400 linebacker. That gets tough on the roster. And then the other one I was going to harp on is I thought Sorensen was a little expensive to go at $90. I'm not really sure what the situation with safeties were when he was going, if it was early and we thought it was going to be high, but I know there were some better deals to be had, in my opinion.
It looks like you maybe get about $400 back next year. I think
I got some 400 to 450 maybe, somewhere in that neighborhood.
What kind of draft capital do you have next year?
Zero. That's the
I don't
thing.
have
He's
zero. I don't
got
have draft
zero.
capital.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't worry about draft capital till next year.
Got it.
Yeah, I will.
Because you'll
trying to
always
relate.
trade the future year picks to get more aggressive in this year.
I'd
Is
rather
that kind of a
trade
strategy?
future
Okay.
year, and so I can draft more guys. This year, what I trade them, I don't remember what I traded them for. I mean, I didn't have a lot of cap trade this year. I ended up managing a few picks. Ended up taking what I traded some stuff and got Philadelphia running back, Memphis guy. I drafted him.
Gainwell.
And so what happened was, so I made the trade for Eckler, giving up. I was scared looking at my running backs. I was very scared with the running back situation. So I felt like I had shed enough cap. And so I've been trying to build cheap contracts so that I would have the cap to make some moves. So I could afford Eckler, especially I actually could still afford him because I had Allen Robinson on the team. And so I ended up was just scared that I had Chase Edmonds, and then I had Salvon Ahmed and Gainwell, and I just wasn't feeling comfortable enough with that. As I was able to get a couple of, felt like I got a couple more receiver assets. I traded Allen Robinson and those two cheap running backs for Eckler and Mims. And then I just traded Mims, which is now why I'm over. I traded Mims in a 2-for-1, and I got Kylan Hill and Browning, the linebacker.
I think that was a good trade for you.
I got two cheap contracts for one receiver. I really like Mims, but I'm nervous. I felt good about having him and Keelan Cole. And so, but I watched some Jets camp, and Keelan Cole is money right now. He's balling out, and so I don't think they'll keep him off the field. There's a lot of mouths to feed. We know Moore is getting some good noise over there too. So a lot of mouths to feed, and I just didn't like. I have two really good running backs, but I didn't really have a third guy at all, and so I felt like making that trade was important. So I'm keeping with the cheap contract so I can easily afford Eckler next year. He's not a problem. And I'm not losing almost much of anything. I have a few guys I can tag should I need to keep them. I was real happy, like you said, getting Tyrell Williams at 129. Everything I've seen is he's de facto number one receiver. And I feel like
I think I'd already gotten Crowder at that point, but I was like pretty surprised. That was probably the next guy I was going for on my list that I thought I could get in this range. But I thought people would be higher on Tyrell Williams with like the uncertainty.
In that trade, I felt like I was studded up pretty good at receiver with Allen Robinson and Brown, and then four other guys that I felt like I'd play. I mean, I'm a big Josh Reynolds fan. Followed him since college. He can play inside and outside, and it was a little bit of I felt like them not adding anybody before they added Julio Jones. I really was high on Reynolds. Knowing Julio Jones is going to be gimpy, his wheels are falling off. I feel like they just are, and I felt like he was paid way too much in the auction. And so I do feel like Reynolds.
I can remember what happened to Tyrell Williams last year. He opted out.
I don't actually remember.
No, he was on the Raiders, right?
Yeah, but he
got hurt.
He got hurt.
I don't think he opted out. I think he got hurt and hurt early.
Well, he got no points last year, so I bet he play.
Maybe he did.
I can't remember what happened to him either. I mean, they brought him in, I think, wasn't it?
I think he had a pretty good year before that.
Yeah,
if I remember right.
It'll be interesting. You have a couple of studs. The Brown, you made some interesting moves. It seems like you're kind of not stuck with this team, but this is going to be the heart and soul of your team for a couple of years. So if these guys in the receiving core can kind of contribute and you find some gems there, and you kind of find some running back help, and Edmonds pays off. I think, like Ben said, you're going to be, be right
This
there.
is going to be the deepest defense I've ever had as far as bodies that I can start. That tight end, I had a better tight end. I traded Logan Thomas away, but I'm really high on Jarwin. Jarwin to me I know the other guy had a pretty good year, but Jarwin's much faster and a much more talented player. I don't think he's going to have an issue taking that job back. I know there's still mouths to feed there too, but
you seem to be pretty invested in the Bills offense this year too, Dan. Is that something that you've been targeting?
Yeah, I love the Bills. I got the Bills in several leagues, I think. Yeah, so it's a high octane offense. You always want to have, those guys. And Josh Allen, something.
Well, as you said to me before we got online, people are always nicer to the commission in all interactions. So it sounds like Ben is holding form there, but you have a solid team, and can't wait to see where you finish up. Ben, do you want to continue on with the Rams analysis?
Yeah, well, first off, I looked it up. Tyrell Williams had a shoulder injury, shoulder surgery in September. So I'm sure he was going to miss most of the season, and then they just shipped him because they knew they weren't going to keep him. So that was what happened to him. Not a ACL or anything crazy like that, but I think he's going to be good.
And Vito, be thinking of who you're going to be dropping live, so we don't have to punish you by taking away future capital in next year's capital.
All right, next up we got the Rams, right?
Yep.
So it's funny because I did my notes, Corey, like right after you sent the agenda or whatever, I started getting on it. And I wrote team rooting for injury. And I'm like, this team, top to bottom, is rooting for so many injuries. It's the most crazy thing I've ever seen in my life. And sure enough, he has Darrell Henderson. So he's already got one in the bank. And I probably would have without that injury, I probably would have really ripped this team a lot more. But now it's like, okay, well, Darrell Williams is going to be good. Gio can be a thing. But man, look at everyone that he has. Justin Jackson, like all these guys that are just backups who are an injury away of having real legitimate jobs. And, it's the same at every position. I like that he has the Rams, I think will be a good quarterback position this year. We'll have to see how Stafford manages, but that's good. You know, the wide receivers though, it's just like, boy, like Jags for days. It's like, he's got Mike Williams, who should be fine, but everyone else is what, 4th, 5th depth chart, fighting for roster spots. Again, like, man, this team has got a lot it's hoping for, right? It's got a lot of guys who can be the guy, but you need the guy in front of you to go down. It's not even like a competition thing, right? So I don't know, offensively, I just don't see a lot going on here early, unless a lot starts happening in training camp and stuff like that. Now, if he keeps some wins and squeak out and injuries start bringing some of these guys in and stuff like that, he could be a scary team when we look at it later, right? Because one thing he does have is a lot of depth at the real important positions. So if he gets some injuries, like we just saw with Cam Akers going down with that Achilles, he can all of a sudden have a squad that's scary. He has 3 positions locked down. Tight end's one of them. I do like this strategy specifically. Don't have to spend a lot of roster spots on certain spots. And he even did it with D tackles. So he's got 2 D tackles. He's got a legit starting tight end with a couple other guys that can get in the mix. And then his safeties and cornerbacks also, there's barely any of them, but they're legit starters, right? So he's got 3 good starters. Ramsey's probably going to bounce back. And then he's got, I think Sendeo will probably get a team. So those things are set. So he doesn't have a lot of figuring out upside guys, everything but you look at the linebackers, it's Jordan Hicks, should be good, but now there's a lot more guys getting in that linebacker position. So we'll see how it all goes out. And again, all these guys, man, they're rotational guys for the most part. Leonard Floyd probably going to start again, but again, those Rams linebackers, they play 40-50% snaps. They don't play a lot. Same with Alexander. He's in a ton of competition right now too. So we'll just see how it goes. it's good to have guys you know are going to be on a team that are sitting right behind his next man up, man. Injuries happen all the time in this league. DN's the same thing, man. Like, it's not pretty, right? So I think I don't like this team very much. I would put it at the bottom of like most teams in general as far as being competitive, but that's like today. Like, we might look at this like September 1st and be like, holy shit, he's got a powerhouse, just because shit happens, you know?
It seems to me, Ben, and maybe if I'm hearing you right, I mean, he's not gonna get a zero in any
No.
position throughout the year, right? Even if there's injuries or bye weeks or things of that nature, it's like he's gonna got. I mean, the running backs, for example, are any guys gonna not outperform what they performed last year, except for maybe Gallman, and he could easily do that if there's a couple injuries, right? So I mean, he has guys that are gonna fill in and get 5-7 points here. He just doesn't have a lot of studs on his team that are going to get him 20.
It's backup running back roulette, Corey. I've played it. It's fucking a nightmare, dude.
Yeah, I'm saying that at all the positions, though, right? Like, it's just kind of the consistent theme throughout. No extreme studs, but a lot of depth and a lot of guys that can contribute throughout the year.
Yeah, depth in good positions, linebacker, running back, and wide receiver. That's the place you're going to want to try and make these types of strategies, right? It's just like you can't have studs at those positions and top to bottom unless you got lucky in the draft. So
it's not the Frenchy way of building a team, that's for sure.
No, but I don't. Go ahead, Roman.
One thing, Brett, so the owner is a Rams fan. So unlike you, Corey, I'm sure he wasn't very happy with Akers' injury yesterday, even though he has an squad.
Listen, I'm not ever happy for people that are talented young prospects to get hurt. I don't have any Akers, and I have tried to acquire Darrell Henderson in every league, but I do feel the pain for any owner that loses a guy that they're counting on, and it's going to happen to all of us, and it does happen to all of us. So it sucks. Ben, what about draft picks and capital? Is there a future there?
He's got first, second, third next year. He traded away his later ones probably to get in the draft this year. So he's all right. I like when you have these weird limbo teams, man. I don't like not having your first round pick because, there's a lot that can go wrong with this team, but I think you'll be in the mix in this division. Like I said, that Darrell Henderson start already is just like, okay, so it's working out right now. And
can you tell us how you feel? Tell us how you feel about the taxi squad.
Don't worry, Corey. I wasn't going to forget about this segment. I want to welcome the GM of the Rams to the lazy ass squad of blue chip. One miserable person from 6th round on your taxi squad, son. I don't know what you're doing when you're in the auction. I don't know if you went on vacation. Maybe wife was getting pissed off. You were on your team too much, doing too much fantasy football. Whatever it is, if I see this empty taxi squad again next year, I'm going to be very upset, sir. Get some goddamn players on your taxi squad, gentlemen.
Love it. Love it. This is becoming my favorite rant section.
I was expecting a talking to about my taxi squad now. It's not full. You didn't say that.
No, I had that. Sorry, I had that. You have half, right?
I was okay. Like six or seven, maybe.
Yeah, no, you're all right. Also sometimes you're activating guys post. I mean, I don't have 10 because everyone wants my shit.
Yeah,
everybody wants your shit.
It's stealing my guys.
Yeah,
keep stealing. I'll take the picks.
Oh, you didn't get 5 guys taking off your taxi squad after the auction.
Right, exactly. Ben's all you have to do as an owner is look who Ben drafts and puts on his taxi squad and just pay double for him. That's all. I mean, it's an easy strategy.
Seems like a theme.
Ben, go on. Let's continue on. We're making Chris moves here to the Michigan. I assume the Wolverines.
Yeah, Michigan Wolverines. There's a name for this team, and it's get a.
Oh, he's a Sal too.
Job.
He's Sal Peralta. Wow, I never even noticed
Peralta.
that. That's pretty freaking awesome. They're like brothers.
Yeah. Michigan Wolverines, they need to get a goddamn job. Okay? Straight up. He took 7 free agents in the auction when he already had 4 free agents on his roster. Currently has 11 free agents on his team out of 45 roster spots. Now, at first you hear that and you're like, this is probably going to be the shittiest team of all time. Like, how would you ever leave yourself with 11 free agents after the draft and after the auction? But spoiler alert, it's not that bad as you would think. Now, not just because he's got my boy Dalvin Cook, which I can never get off his hands. Maybe I'll try a little harder this year. But Dalvin Cook will anchor that down. But you look at who he got, and it's just like, okay, Chris Thompson, Duke Johnson, TJ Yeldon, they're all free agents. Some injuries are starting to happen. They're going to get a team. Somebody, I think Duke Johnson probably should. $38 guy as a journeyman might get a team. That ends up looking pretty good. But he kind of needs it to happen. Now he has on his running back, he's also on this taxi squad. He has what's his name? The running back for Carolina, Chuba Hubbard.
And Jamar Jefferson.
And Jamar Jefferson, who should return kicks. So if I like this strategy of him having him on there still, because he doesn't have to activate him. He might not need him. He does have the cap to activate him. I did notice that. And, you know, if these guys get teams, maybe you don't need to like pull the trigger on these guys quite yet until you can wait and see. So I like that approach. Even though you look at it at first and it's like, man, his running backs are a dumpster fire outside of Dalvin Cook. There's actually a lot of upside to be had there between the taxi squad and these guys getting jobs. So if you go to the wide receivers, boy, man, like there's Adam Thielen. He's going to crush. He's going to need Elijah Moore to be out the gate pretty good, which I hear he might be, but you know, relying on rookies as your number 2 is usually pretty dicey. I think KJ Hamler is probably going to lose some usage with some more healthy guys coming there and more competition in Denver. And then Cade Johnson, I really like as a prospect, but I don't see him getting a lot of run this year. I think he's a guy that got a groom. So now where are you looking at? You're going to get much points from out of that? I don't know. It's kind of a real Russian roulette thing. So yeah.
One quick question, Ben.
I mean, Jesus.
One quick question. What do you think about the strategy of having the top running back and the top receiver from the same team?
Is Thielen still the top receiver in Minnesota?
No, he's not. But I know what Roman's getting at. He franchised him, so when he had him before, he certainly did, right? So last year he had Thielen and Cook. So, I mean, in a way, our offense is good enough to sustain it. You know, I mean, if Cook's got a down game, you bet your ass Thielen's going to be making up for it. So I don't hate it. You know, you like to get that upside, but you also need points and averages. So I'd probably hate it more in other leagues than in blue chip, where you just got to get points, you know? So, but he does have like a lot of cap committed to those two players, right? You got Thielen on a franchise tag, 246 is all right now, but that third year is going to get a little dicey. But Cook's $100, I think. I mean, geez, man, like, what a world. Like,
right.
So, you know, having running backs that good at that price. So, yeah, I think he can get by, you know, his tight end room, you know, he got Jared Cook for half the price this year. So I guess I can't harp at that. $106 seems expensive, except I know he was $200 last year. And I think he's in a better position than in usage than probably he was last time. So he should be fine at that position. And then again, there's some Trey Burton, Tyler Eifert. They're guys who can play football, so they can get a team. Let's see what happens. And then I did notice, which is interesting, because he had a lot of these free agent plays, right, are basically because you don't have a lot of cap and you kind of get some upside guys. I've played this a lot, not to this extreme, right, but I've definitely taken shots at free agent guys that I think we're going. I got Geno Atkins for $3 this year. Like, he's just got cleared. He's going to go get a team. So like sometimes that strategy can really work out. Like, people don't want to take the risk of keeping an FA on his team. This was just done in the most extreme, and especially on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, he's got Preston Brown and Josh Bynes from before. You know, those guys could get teams, you know, like, again, like these positions get hurt. These guys are familiar with a bunch of systems. So we'll see how that works out. You know, studs, like, he went and got Bobby Wagner for $189. I feel like that could have been distributed a little better at the position. I don't really see the desperation to like get that one stud there for that high of a price. We talked
What's the franchise tag on the linebacker?
Well, it's going to be a shitload next year. This last year, it wasn't that much. But this year we had, I mean, there's.
I calculated it. It's 112, I think.
For next year?
For next year?
Yeah.
Well, if you look at what he did with Thielen,
bad.
it looks like that might be a part of his strategy. He went and got Thielen and paid a shitload for him, and obviously franchise. So I imagine that's what he's thinking on Bobby Wagner.
Yeah, it could be, and that's fine. I thought it was going to be higher. It's still pretty high, but I thought it was going to be much higher considering how much we were seeing those linebackers go. So that could work out. But again, it's still he's paying 189. He'll pay probably 189.
I think Dean went to 112. Linebacker going to like 105. It's just over $100 a store.
That's crazy. Well, I guess that not that many guys went. Just the few that went were really high. So, anyways, that was the one that really stuck out to me. But if you look at all this, like, it's not a lot to look at, man. Like he's got a lot of holes, and he's got to hope a lot of guys get teams and legitimate play. So, like, I'm personally, I look at this team. I don't think it's going to be very competitive, even with, who he's got. He's got Dalvin Cook out in Thielen. It's just like, cool. We got Bobby Wagner. Great. Like, man, a lot of these other guys got to step up. He's fine at safety, cornerback, whatever. But I don't like where he's at linebacker outside of his two guys, and DN's kind of a fucking mess.
And what about draft capital?
He's got his first. So if his strategy doesn't work out, that's good. And then 4 through 6 picks. So again, like if you're going to do this type of aggressive strategy, and I'm again, you gave me 2 teams that are going to be really intriguing to see what they look like now and what they look like when the start of the football season hits, right? Like injuries happen in training camp, injuries happen in preseason, and even during the season. So like these guys, like one's banking on people getting jobs from injuries, right? Or positions that don't work out the way the team does. The other one's just like hoping for injuries. So I think they're both probably like going to be finishing in the lower end of their division. But I could like see there's a lot of scenarios that this strategies can work out. And in blue chip, you just got to go with a strategy. And at least they both kind of have one.
What he tends to. I haven't seen a lot of activity from Michigan since I've joined. Is that pretty typical of his, interactions throughout the league? And does that punish you? Do you think if you're a low activity GM?
I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I bet you he doesn't watch the podcast. Makes me sad.
Well, we know that that's an automatic 15% ding to what your team could be if you don't listen to the Dynasty brothers. So shame on him, or anybody for that matter that doesn't listen to this for pure enjoyment, even if they're not a fantasy football player. So
hey, it's one more guy not stealing shit off my taxi squad.
Yeah.
Well, he does have 5 spots.
There are some owners that do it nicely. They're not very active, and Art Walker comes to mind. Always has a damn good team, and he's just not as active as you would think he would be for somebody that puts a good team together. Art's not in this league, but he's in the other one.
Well, then you have assholes like G-Dub that have 80 trades in the offseason, and obviously there's extremes to every side of the story. So
and one more thing, getting back to Wagner, I don't think there is any chance he paid 189 to franchise tag him next year, considering he's going to turn 32 next year. So it's 3 years deal. Do you really want Wagner at 200 plus, 35 years old?
Yeah, that was the risk in not paying for him.
I probably wouldn't.
Yep, I agree, Roman. All right, Ben, who are your picks to win the division and to finish last?
I'll tell you after your guys' segment.
All right, let's not forget this time because that seemed to be a real letdown for the viewers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go. I want to hear you guys sell me the other teams before I make a decision because.
All right, I'm just going to copy whatever Dan says. So
I think it's a real wild card division, man. There's a lot of interesting teams in this division.
All right, Dan, you're going to be up with the Baltimore is it Baltimore whatever?
Baltimore Bees.
Mr. Nicholas,
All right,
Sambor, and Brian Solender.
Hopefully y'all can hear me all right. I'm coming off a cold, so I don't know how I sound.
Yeah, you're good.
I got drainage in the ear. I can't even hardly hear myself. All right,
I need a little bit more cowbell, Dan. I need a little more enthusiasm.
Cowbell.
I need more cowbell.
Starting with Baltimore, we got the quarterbacks, and we love to talk about quarterbacks. He's got the Denver guy, paid $22. So I kind of went through and graded things, gave him like a letter grade.
Yep.
Okay. So it's purely my opinion. Don't take it personally. Don't hate me. Don't send me a nasty email. Call me a cunt.
There you go.
There you go. So I gave him a C because I felt like you had a bunch of guys getting dollar quarterbacks. I felt like paying $22 for Denver. Maybe was paying it on the hope that Aaron Rodgers goes there. He's got running backs, Jacobs on a pretty good contract, and then he's got AP. Maybe he's hoping gets a job, and then three rookies. So I gave him a B for having a good, solid bell cow type starter. AP may have some upside, and then he's got, if you got 5 on your team, at least you're doing something. You got a little depth.
Jake Funk looks a lot better than he did a few days ago.
Yes, he does. He got himself a kicker. I gave him a C at kicker. If we're gonna go over kickers, I did that because he's I think got the best kicker in the league. If I'm not mistaken. I gave him an A at the kicker. I gave him a D+ at D end.
Did we do wide receivers, or are you saving that for later?
I skipped the receivers. Sorry, I'm going. My notes are over here. So he's got CeeDee Lamb. So CeeDee Lamb, he paid $385 for Julio, which I thought was too much. I felt like he could have put that money somewhere else. I mean, Julio's been Julio. Julio's killed me a number of times in a number of leagues, so I'm not a Julio fan. Having Josh Reynolds, I hope the wheels fall off. And but he does. He has Lamb and Julio. You got to feel good about that. John Brown, you feel like he's going to feel like he's got 3 decent receivers. And he's got a lot of depth. Got a lot of players on there. Tight end, I gave him a C. Got Uzama, who I do like. I don't know what they're really doing at tight end, but with the three really good receivers, I don't know how much balls there are for the tight ends. Sample did a decent job last year, so but after that, he's got some bodies at tight end. So I mean, he's got Jags, but I don't.
I made a real quick. I made an offer for Jacob Harris, and the response was, "We've already bought tickets to his Hall of Fame induction speech." So they're high on Jacob Harris, and
wow, I think I got that same.
Love the confidence.
Actually,
I thought it was a funny response. So they're happy with their selection with Jacob Harris.
Yeah, so I mean, he's a certainly interesting guy, but we got to see him do something first, I guess. And then the ends, he has no starters. I don't even know what I forgot. D tackle. You got 1 safety. I'm going off my notes here, so I'm not looking at the screen. What you got the screen up here? Quentin Williams. Is he going to play D tackle? And I mean, I don't know. Justin Houston's his best returning guy, and don't have a team right at the moment, right? So
he's got. Is Granderson going to be decent or no? No.
They drafted
Ashman.
Yeah, they drafted a guy, and so I don't know if Granderson's going to get much play. So Jackson, I don't know. So yeah, I think he's struggling at the end. Linebacker, he's got Greenlaw. Highsmith may take a little jump, but I still don't know if he got 3 real starters. And then we get down to the safeties, and
he's got Winfield, pretty big production.
Where are the corners?
Doesn't have any.
Okay, well, and so he has a lot of draft capital, and so what I really feel like he's building. you know, he's a build team. He's got a lot of good draft capital, some ones, twos, and a whole slew of picks next year. And um,
Wow, I didn't
Yeah.
notice that he went full no cornerback strategy. That's aggro.
yeah,
Does he have any on his Tafsty squad that he can like throw up if like maybe he's got Dylan Moses there. I like him.
he drafted a
Harris
lot of
Robinson.
rookies, and he drafted some
Yeah.
very interesting names. So, I mean, for the future wise, I mean, I like a lot of the names he's got there.
Kenny Yarwood.
So,
Yeah, he's got some good guys.
Yeah, he's got some very interesting names.
And it filled his taxi squad. I love it.
He filled the taxi squad.
God
So-
damn American hero.
So I don't think he's going to be competitive this year, but I do think he's got a lot to work with going forward. You know,
Is it time to move Josh Jacobs and try to figure out?
Yeah, if I were him, I probably would. I probably would get as much as I possibly could for him.
Well, they've been rebuilding for 2 years now.
So
I like his wide receivers a little bit better than maybe. I mean, there's some upside guys. I think
it's a lot
Bird
of
could be
bodies.
a role. Wiggins is fighting with Peoples Jones for that kind of third guy, and who takes that over. We don't know. CeeDee Lamb's a stud. Julio's a stud. Miller's going to have a role and can get 15 in a week. It's not awful at wide receiver. Yeah.
So he's got some interesting players on this team to develop. So I think
plenty of cap room.
Got plenty of
which
cap.
is
he
maybe
can make some
use that to-
moves. He can take. I think his next year's draft's going to be real important. And,
How many draft? How many spots does he have next year, or how many picks?
I didn't write it down. I think he's got multiple firsts and seconds.
Okay.
I think he looked like he had like a dozen or so picks overall.
If I were a competitive owner, I would be targeting Jacobs for this year to try to figure that out. If
Yeah.
Send it to me.
yeah,
Sorry.
you heard it here first.
It's heard it here
I'm not a
first.
competitive owner, so I can't.
Okay.
For the story, Corey, because it's your first year in this league. So initially I picked Jacobs at 101, and they picked Sanders at 103. So after the first year, we had a lot of back and forth because, of course, as an Eagles fan, I was trying to get Sanders and leverage Jacobs. So he ended up in a swap, and the jury is still out to see who won the trade. We'll see about this year, but I like Sanders moving forward more than I like Jacobs.
Yeah, and in typical Corey fashion, I would say it's probably equal, or I prefer Jacobs, but it's hard to say, really. Like they both have question marks, right? They both have question marks around them. I think they both have other guys in the backfield, and I think Jacobs. To me, the scary thing has been a little bit of some of the off-field stuff with Jacobs that kind of have popped up a little bit, and that's concerning. And then you
They
bring
got
in
Drake.
Yeah, and then they bring in Drake for $8 million, and so like when I moved on from Jacobs in another league, it was a combination of those two things. I wonder if there's that Vegas lifestyle, and you're having some issues with the old booze or whatever it is socially. Like it could grab a hold of you pretty quick if they're paying $8 million for a running back to come in, even though you've been an All-Pro type player. Like something's going on. I just don't see why.
Jacobs got a DUI, right?
What's that? Go ahead.
He got a DUI.
DUI, and then just a couple other little spats. It's just been a little messy.
Hey, Corey.
Yeah.
Corey. I'm just going to go ahead and cross Jacobs off my list of the segment later.
Oh, okay. I'm not supposed to speak about anything. I'll just shut my mouth. I apologize.
No, I'm just going to say when we get to the segment.
No,
Josh
work it
Jacobs
in now.
goes on
Work
my
it in
guy.
now, just in case we don't get there.
Don't worry.
Okay. All right.
I'm okay with it. I'm
love it.
basically going to reiterate everything you just said. So I
Well, I'm
agree
pretty-
with everything you just said about
I appreciate that.
Josh
That's the best compliment I can get is when you agree with me, Ben, and or Roman. So I mean,
except for the
good stuff.
miles, taking miles. Or
I'm gonna have to go on mute here a little bit because I have some cleaning ladies in my house vacuuming. So if I'm, then you'll understand why. All right, we're going to move on to the next team. Dan, now that you got one under your boat, we are going to move on to Fleece, Mr. Fleece City. One of the more talked about owners in the league, I think, Mr. Fleece. Obviously,
Yes.
he's been...
Peter does a very good job. He's a very good owner. He's always at the top. I think he was, third seed last year? Finished maybe top 3, or I remember right. I'm gonna be honest with you. I pretty much expect him to be right around that also this year. He's got a really quality team. $6 Titans quarterback. That's a nice contract with a nice value. Damian Harris, Jonathan Taylor. He's got 2 nice running backs. He maybe get something out of Ty Johnson for a flex guy. I don't know what Williams or Miller will give him, or if they'll even make 53. I think Williams may make the 53. Miller's maybe. So, but he's got some guys there. So if you got 2 starting running backs, then you're doing pretty good in this league. This is where he's got a real advantage over a lot of folks. Devontae Adams, Hollywood Brown, Chase Claypool, and Debo Samuel. That's pretty much that's a 4. That's a wide receiver room. A lot of people are going to be jealous of. And, a lot of them are cheap. Adams is not cheap, but the rest of them are cheap. So that's a good looking receiver group. He's got some other bodies, some Pettis and Duvernay in there that should also give him some fill-in work when he needs it. I traded him Logan Thomas apparently for Jarwin, and so Thomas was I think number 3 tight end. He was a lot. I was scared to pay that franchise tag, but I tagged him because I had to. Because last year I lost 2 games because I didn't have a damn tight end. So ended up swapping him for a cheaper contract, free up the cap. So he ends up with Tanyan and Thomas. So I don't know how you get much better than that.
I wouldn't sleep on Dan Arnold. I think he's going to have
you got Dan Arnold too. So
much better team or much better year than
absolutely. He got him an A+ on the receivers, A+ on tight end. He's got him an A on quarterback and an A on running back. So his offense is not one you want to play.
Yeah, it's crazy because his offense is stacked, but he's probably going to be starting 2 tight ends every week, which is usually what you do in a desperate situation. But that's going to be a scary offense to play if it's healthy.
It is. He's put together a really, really good team. We go down. He's got a kicker and he's got a punter. We don't have to talk a lot about that. But we get into D tackle. We start getting into the defense. We start seeing a few chinks in the armor. It's pretty good, but I don't know what's going to happen with the D tackle situation. Is Doug Costin going to play? I mean, 46 points last year is not going to cut it. Not going to give you a lot. D end, Okwara, Austin Bryant, Arik Armstead. I mean, I think he'll end up with Chase on. I think he'll end up with a couple of starters. It could be a little bit of a wild card position for him, but I think I'll give him a B in D end. We'll see if anybody swaps around positions. Maybe may end up hurting him or not. Linebackers, I gave him a C. This is where he got some Eric Wilson. Had a really good year last year. We'll see if he'll repeat that. And then he got the second-year guy, Kenneth Murray, and after that, I don't know how much he's got. So he's got 2 starters for sure. I liked Ferguson. I traded him Ferguson. So maybe he gets some starting snaps. I know he's cheap, so linebackers. So I think you see the powers in his offense, and then the defense has got some guys, but I don't know if he's got enough guys. He may end up, I think personally, may end up trading one of the tight ends or a receiver, and maybe see if he can upgrade that defense a little bit. But it'd be pretty scary. He might have the offensive depth to do that. Corners, he's got some decent names at corners, but didn't do a lot of points. So, Cameron Sutton and Dory Jackson, K'Wan Williams. I guess he'll probably get a couple of starters out of there. Name-wise, you would think he would, but that's not many points. The centerpiece here on the defense is going to be Jamal Adams. He's a beast. So he's got Adams and Edmonds at safety, and a couple other guys.
Hey, Roman, what do you think of Marcus Epps? Is he getting any hype?
He's on mute. Roman's on mute.
Yeah, he's a rotational guy. I don't think he's a starter.
I think he stole him off my taxi squad. I'm pretty sure.
No.
I don't remember doing a trade with him, so
That's where most
maybe
guys
I
come
traded
from.
him. Yeah, stealing my taxi squad.
Boy, he's filled a lot of people off the his whole cornerback. All his cornerbacks came from the auction.
Which was awesome, man. Like cornerbacks were free, man. I remember you
Yeah,
used to
I
pay
think that's
$30,
why I ended up
$40
with like
for a starter.
6.
Yeah,
You're
like
just trying to find a guy for cheap that might end up playing, and that pretty much that was you had cornerback option.
And we have a full taxi squad.
Full taxi squad.
yeah, Fleece. I know Fleece never lets me down. Fleece fills up that taxi squad every time. Way to go, Fleece.
I'm gonna call Peter out. It's Peter.
Peter. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to get Peter on here. I think I've heard enough about him at this point. We need to either get Sin City next week or Peter. Those are the two that I'm calling out this week. So
Yeah, come on, Pete, get on here.
or John Candy, because Joel's been teasing us for a while too. So one of you guys grab your stones and send me a DM, and we'll get you on.
Yeah, get him on here. He's a good owner. He's done a good job. He's got a first rounder. He's got Wayne's first rounder next year, and then a few late picks. So he might have him a nice player on this team to add to it next year. By and large, I think Fleece's team is top 4 in the league. I think he's probably the favorite in this division.
Wow.
I feel like I'm chasing him. I play him in week 13. I'm hoping I catch some breaks and maybe get that win. Maybe I could sneak past him for the division.
Well, let me tell you something. I play in week 2. It doesn't make me very happy.
Yeah, I would imagine. I'm glad I play him later so that hopefully maybe some things will bounce my way.
Little injury bug might happen.
Maybe you never know. It doesn't take many to go start turning south. So a real quick side note, I wanted to tell you, like the year, I finished second place, then I won. I got first place. The next year, I had a lot of cheap contract. I had drafted really well that year. I traded Tariq Cohen, TJ Watt, and Galladay. I got Michael Thomas for the Saints, a receiver. I had that year, the next year, I won the ship. I'm coming in the next year with Keenan Allen, Michael Thomas, and Evans in Tampa Bay.
Sounds like Roman's teams.
I know. I had Melvin Gordon at running back. I felt like I was just studded up. I went 1-11. So you really just never know. You feel like you feel strong, and then you go 1-11. So anyway.
All right, Dan. Let's keep it rolling. We're gonna move to Mr. Second place on this list for the quiet owner, Mike Lom in Scottsdale.
Hey, real quick, guys, I have a question for the commish and Roman. It's great that he's on here. I noticed the Rams doesn't have a name. It just says LA Rams. Does anyone know who the Rams owner is? What's his name?
It's Brett.
Greg?
Brett. It's
Brett Gross.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was. It was God bless for America.
Yes.
Yeah.
He almost quit the league this year.
Yeah.
He was almost pulling.
Yeah, in that snafu with what?
Yeah, Levi
SMC.
and
He who thou shalt not be named.
SMC, and then it's like it's you come back and you're like, what kind of shitstorm just happened here? It's like, whoa, let's take a chill pill for a second. Everybody go grab a cup of coffee. And
thank God for the Dynasty brothers and cooler heads prevailing.
Okay, Brett's been in the league 2 years. He's a 60+ guy, nice guy. A couple of chats with him when he first joined the league. He made a lot of trades. Yeah, I think he got upset, but I can understand why.
Yeah, well, I think everybody had a different reaction, but again, it wasn't a great.
It's not Georgia's best friend. I can tell you that.
No, I think him and Wayne are friends, actually, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And Wayne helped maybe try and talk him into coming back, and
Well, it's all good. We're all at a better place. We learned a lot about our league,
Yeah,
and
right.
we're moving on. We're on to Cincinnati.
Hold on, wait. There's a warning at the top of your screen, Corey. What's that say?
Oh, it's still
Invalid
it's still
roster?
46 players on Vito's roster. He hasn't dropped
the
anybody yet.
commish-
So
the
by the end of
commission's too
the
many
podcast, he's going to have to make a decision.
Yeah, y'all got my screen captured. Now I go.
But first and foremost, Dan, can you go through Scottsdale suicide list, and then you can sit back, relax, and figure out who you're going to drop.
Just drop AJ Brown.
Yeah, Mike Long, he's a good owner. He's usually got a pretty good team in Thrones, and but he's not super active here, I don't believe. And but he's got a pretty good little team. I went through. He's got Dak Prescott. So he's got Dallas quarterback as A+. It's $14 contract. You got to like that. I think he'll have a bounce back year. Running backs, he's got some issues. He does have some Pollard for Dallas, who had a good year last year. But I don't think that'll happen again this year with Zeke coming back, probably healthy and getting most of those touches back. And then he's got 5 bodies. He's got some guys on the team, but I think give him a D+ at running back. He's really thin. Wide receiver, he's got Sterling Shepard and Marvin Jones are his best 2 wide receivers. And then the rookie, Tony, I gave him another D. I think he's really going to struggle with running back and receiver this year. And he's got a lot of guys, and he may get some points out of them. But I think starting power, he's in trouble on those.
I really didn't like that Marvin Jones contract. I think 228 for a really crowded room is a little steep.
Yeah, and sometimes we do those things out of desperation, trying to get some guys in there. And yeah, I think he's a little overpriced there, probably a lot overpriced. He does tight ends. He's got some nice names, but I don't know that either one of them are actually going to be starters. So it's tough to say. He's got $250 tied up at tight end, and at the end of the day, it might not be good for him. I do like Ertz and Graham personally. I think they're good players, but I don't know.
Well, according to Frenchie, Ertz is going to get 155 targets in Buffalo this year. So, I mean, just be careful what you say there, Dan.
Hey,
I said 100.
Hey, Allen needs all the targets he can get, man. So
Hurts is gone. He's not playing for Philly this year.
I just don't know where's he gonna start. Is the question.
He's also 30. He's also 37 years old. So
He's going to the Bills. Well, he's actually 3 years younger than your guy from the Chiefs.
Kelsey?
Kelsey.
No. Yeah, Kelsey.
Yeah. He's got a nice punter. His punter is probably top 3. He's got DeForest Buckner. He's a stud D tackle. So see again, got him an A for his D tackle, A for his punter. Gave him a C- at DN. He's got Yannick on there, and talent wise, he's pretty good, but didn't do. That's not going to be enough points to carry you. So he'll need to have a better year this year. Davenport plays and starts.
He's coming back.
He's coming back from some injury, so I think you can say he's got 2 guys that start on their team. But
Hendrickson is gone.
Yeah, Hendrickson's gone, but they drafted a high guy. So I don't know how that'll work. Hopefully.
They drafted the kid out of Houston.
Yeah, and so we'll. I think that he could end up doing something at DN, but I think he's got 2 guys that he can say start.
Peyton Turner.
Yeah, but right now, with the points, they're going to have to get some big upticks for him to be happy with the DN room. Linebackers, gave him a B. You got Deion Jones. He's real nice. Rashaan Evans. He's a pretty good linebacker, but those points are not gonna win you the league. He's gonna have to get some more out of that. And Isaiah Simmons, second-year guy, probably get a nice jump out of him. So he's probably got 3 nice starting linebackers. And then looking for these other guys to fill in. I gave him a B on linebacker. Cornerbacks, he's got Howard. He's a stud. Between Maddox and Hayden, I mean, he's got starting corners. I gave him a B. He's got a good cornerback room. Safety, Minka Fitzpatrick is a good player, and you've got some other guys that ought to get a good bit of playing time between Duggar and Wilson and Thompson. There's this full taxi squad. Congratulations.
Chris Evans could contribute this year. Sounds
Yeah,
like
he could.
he's making some moves.
He's got some players in there.
I like Goldston. He's out of Iowa. I think he's got a chance to maybe contribute a little bit. It's a crowded DN room in Dallas, but future looks okay for him.
does.
You can't groom players on your taxi squad if you don't have players on your taxi squad, gentlemen.
That's
Take
right,
some
man.
notes. This man's filling them up. He's going to have some starters pretty soon. We're laughing at the league, saying, hey, man, all I had to do was fill my taxi squad.
Overall, I mean, I think his defense is solid. He's got a few players to build with, but I think his running back and receiving core is going to probably keep him out of the playoffs. But otherwise, he's got some good pieces on there.
What about draft capital? Is he?
He's got a 1 through 5. So, he's just keep on building. He's a good owner. He does a good job in the other league. I know he's always competitive there. So I expect him to keep on building it. And so I think this league, the division, this Big 12, I really feel like Fleece is the favorite. I feel like if I played Fleece 10 times, I might get him 3 or 4 times. So I feel like I'm kind of still chasing his tail a little bit. I feel like I'm competitive and pretty deep in all my positions for the most part. Would love to have another DN, but I think I hope to give him a run for his money. And then I think there's another tier of guys that are pretty competitive that are going to be pushing for a playoff spot. We'll have to see how things shake out, injuries and opportunities.
Awesome. Great job, Dan. Really appreciate it. I know that's a little bit of work to put into your week, but appreciate the insight, and I'm sure the other owners do too. Always good to be reviewed by Mr. Vito Corleone. Awesome. I'm going to jump in and do this quickly. I want to save a little bit of time for our bus segment, even if we just give a couple, and hopefully you guys will enjoy that. So I had the privilege of reviewing Mr. Jason Bauer's Mighty Orphans. For those of you that don't know Jason, he is, even in the smaller leagues I play with him, a pretty conservative manager. I don't think he makes really bold moves. He has typically he loves wide receivers and he loves his PPR running backs. And obviously that's not an option when you take over a team. But I think he'll be a competitive owner. He's a super competitive guy and he's a hell of a lot of fun. So hopefully we'll get him back on the pod and do another non-dark episode with Jason, and you can see his beautiful face. I wrote, he took a solid flyer at QB position for $1. If Darnold works out, it's a great contract for 5 years. And if he doesn't, they're going to be drafting someone else. So I think that's a good position to be in. I think Sermon has a chance to be a top 24 back this year and beyond if he becomes the lead back in San Francisco. So obviously he's not aware of how that Sermon came to him, but also got some draft capital back for trading Javonte Williams, which I thought was a good move by former owner. Lack of depth at running back position, but all on short contracts, so he can reassess next year. He's invested in McMurray this year, and Williams. Both will open up next year and give him about $275 back, so he'll be able to use that money wisely. He has 2 young receivers in Bateman and Moore, and then Goodwin could also be a contributor in Chicago if they move on from Anthony Miller and Daz Newsome doesn't recover from his preseason injury. They have some other guys that are competing, but Goodwin's probably the most polished option outside of Newsome. Overall lack of depth at the position is concerning, and I would have preferred to see an investment in a possible franchise taggable wide receiver than spending the money at RB for 1-year deals. But he was competitive. I'm not a big fan of Damian Williams this year. I obviously went after Herbert. So if you're high on Williams and something does happen to Montgomery, that could change. But I don't know if the $111 on Williams is where I would have spent that money. So that's why I'm a little bit lower on that. But obviously that's an opinion. Tight end room is very solid. Go ahead.
Sorry, Corey. They paid Damian Williams a lot of money, though, didn't they?
I'm not sure what his contract looked like. I just, again, I'm
It's
probably
like 7 million a year.
yeah, a little bit biased. I think he was a good player. He's coming off of the, no wear and tear from the previous year. I think he could translate into a 2 down back if something happened to Montgomery, and then they have, Herbert and Cohen there as well. So it's still kind of a little bit convoluted as what their plans are. Again, in Jason's position, though, I just wonder if you're not going to franchise him, you sign him to a 1 year deal. So is there a better long-term strategy? I don't think Jason's as far off as he thinks he is from being competitive also, and I'll get to that as part of my analysis. So his strategy overall was to sign a bunch of people at auction with his money and sign them to 1 year deals. And so he's going to have about the same amount of capital next year that he did this year. So obviously that was a part of what he did, going back to him not being he's a pretty conservative guy, and I think as you're just getting your feet wet in this league, that's not a bad strategy. So I put his tight end room is very solid. Arguably, it has 2 top 10 tight ends on multi-year deals, and Okuwabunabama is a strong prospect as well. I think if it were me, I would probably move Jonnu to a competitive team this year and try to get some draft capital for him. Because or possibly Fant. Even though he's an Iowa boy, a little bit down on Fant. And I think this is a make it or break year kind of for Fant as far as him being considered in the top tier as a tight end. They talk highly about Albert, and he's kind of the same profile, super athletic, and is waiting in the wings. So. If it were me, I'd probably move on from one of these tight ends and try to get some extra draft capital, because in a year it's going to be hard to move Smith and Fant, depending on how he does this year. We'll see. I put his team is led by the linebacker room. He's set for years with Parsons, Collin, and Oswusu, 3 potential studs for $75. That was the strategy of the previous owner, kind of a low-risk strategy to draft 3 of the highest-ranked LBs. If 2 of them pay off, I mean, he's got starters for several years at the linebacker room. I would also maybe consider moving one of them, and depending on who's getting snaps early, and trying to get even more draft capital and reinvest next year. I put... He has solid safety play with Harmon and McLeod. I had McLeod last year and picked him up in an auction in a couple leagues, and he scored points. He paid like $40 for him. I think that was a pretty good addition at auction. And then Harmon, he has on a couple-year deal. He has 2 young prospects at wide receiver on the taxi squad, and they could help him contribute this year if he wants. That is, who was that he has? Oh, Eskridge and Anthony Schwartz. Schwartz should probably see some special teams duties, and who knows really what the plan is for him long term. I thought it was a bit of a reach, to be honest with you, in the draft at 220, but he's there and he's got him, and he's not super expensive, so we'll see what he pans into. And then Eskridge, I think, can get some tick right away. So he's a great person to have on his taxi squad to see if someone invests into him or if he can activate later on in the season. So. Overall, he's done a pretty good job of, taking Ben's advice and filling his taxi squad. He had a lot of draft capital, and I think he's in a lot better position than what he thought when he took over the team. If we were comparing the teams to Jason's team this year, I would prefer to have his position with the 3 first-round picks, $800 in draft capital, some of his young players at the core, than some of the other teams we reviewed on the pod today. So. I think the future looks pretty bright as long as he makes some wise decisions with his roster management and with his draft picks, and invest wisely with his auction dollars next year. I said, what is the long-term strategy? Does he move on from DJ Moore, Sermon, and Fan and gain draft capital in 2022? Wouldn't be surprised if those 3 players could get 6 first-round draft picks collectively if he wanted to take that kind of route and then really have a full rebuild with 8 to 9 first-round picks next year to pair with his 3 stud linebackers. He has a lot of moving pieces that he can deploy at, and he's going to have to take some chances inevitably at some point, and let the blood circulate in the shark water and see what happens. So I don't know if anybody wants to add anything to it. I'm sure Jason would love to hear more input from us as far as what his roster construction looks like and what our thoughts for his team are in the future.
I'll throw something in there, Corey, and this is how I feel a lot of the times when you have these backups. that you signed these 1-year deals. You said in Williams and Latavius Murray.
Latavius, yeah.
Is let's just put in a scenario it's not working out for him this year. If like they either of those guys become lead backs because the other one gets hurt, like if Montgomery goes down or if Kamara goes down, you can go get those first round picks for that because they're fill-ins for a year for somebody who's competing and they're on 1-year deals. If you had them on 2-year deals, then people are probably not willing to make that type of trade to compete this year, right? So having those 1-year assets of guys who can work out, I think both of them will get him points every week too. So I think the running back position at least is going to be getting points for him. But I like in general when people are like, if you have these, if you're going to spend on these type of upside backups, I like them being on the 1-year deal because, once the other guy gets hurt, that job is only temporary, right? So if you have them locked up long-term, somebody probably might not give you the farm for them. But if they think they can make a run, then you can start really getting some good assets for the future. So I think he has that going for him too.
I like Jason's team because it's not there a couple of teams that I reviewed and just like in hearing some of the analysis today, a lot of people kind of just seem to be stuck somewhat in limbo, and I prefer to have his young core with some of the capital and some of the draft picks that he has moving forward because he can kind of mold it into whatever he wants to. I didn't touch on the DNs. I think he has 2 solid ones on 1-year deals.
He was a good manager, he set up.
Yeah, he was. He absolutely was.
He was a good trader. He was a good manager. So it's not very often you can inherit a team that's like set up in a rebuild this good. And we'll see how Jason finishes it off.
100%. And hopefully he busts that cherry wide open and makes his first deal pretty soon. So we'll see what happens. Hell of a golfer, by the way. Hell of a golfer Jason is. Wish I had his swing. I have hometown heroes, Mr. Mike Carroll. I think I'm going to be hard on him, and I don't know if it was just kind of the mood I was in today, but overall, again, I think his team is just kind of I'm not sure what the plan is. He's kind of locked into it for a couple years. It's just kind of it's not exciting. But here's why. I think that he has a positional advantage with Mahomes every year at the quarterback position, or every game at the quarterback position. Great, he has him for 3 years. But if you look at his running back room, I mean, he really needs Singletary to take a level up this year, and he needs Penny to perform. Otherwise, he's in some serious trouble. And he has a lot of draft capital and money tied into some running backs that could be poo-poo. I mean, the word on the street is Keyshawn Vaughn might not even, make the active roster, or will be, delegated to special teams. That's scary, for someone that you spent 1.6 on, a year ago. So, if Penny, who has showed splashes of talent throughout the years without, until he's been injured, performs, then he's not bad. If Singletary levels up and, scores a few more rushing touchdowns and gets more involved in the passing game, then he's not too bad. Otherwise, I think he's in trouble there. I said the trade for Mims was another risk-reward deal. VETO touched on that a little bit. I'm not a Mims fan, but he got a young prospect. And if he pans out, great. He has a young prospect in Mooney, who I think is, one of the best contracts in the league, to be perfectly honest with you. He's got him for the next 3 years at least, or 8 years for $14. As a Chicago guy, Mooney is being talked about, as a special player, and depending on what happens with Robinson next year, he could, step into arguably that. I don't know if he's a solid, legit wide receiver 1, but he's definitely a standout wide receiver 2, and I compare him to kind of a Tyler Lockett type player. And he's paired with a young quarterback in Field, so I like Mooney as a prospect long term. He's also got Tylan Wallace, who he drafted this year, Diami Brown, so young players with Mims, Mooney, and those 2 other ones, but not necessarily people that are alpha dogs this year are going to contribute past what you expect from rookies, other than Mooney.
Hold on, Corey. You forgot the best part.
What's that?
Olamide Zacchaeus or whatever his name is. He might get that number 3 job. I just wanted to point out that $26 in the auction 2019 was me getting him as a rookie on my taxi squad, who this fine gentleman stole from me. Just another asset brought to you by Ben's Taxi Squad.
Yeah.
So a lot of ifs there, right? I mean,
Another guy that I want to highlight is Lynn Bowden. Bowden was a super electric college player. He just got misused by the Raiders last year, and then he got traded mid-season, and then he actually was trending up down the stretch with the Dolphins. So I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how he acquired him. Did he draft him? I'm not sure, but like, who is Bowden going to supplant? Is he going to supplant? I mean, are they going to give Bowden touches over, say, Waddle or
No, I think he's a jack of all trades. I think he can play running back. I think he was a former quarterback in college.
Yeah, he can throw the ball. They did a bunch of plays where he was throwing passes and stuff. He almost threw a couple touchdowns last year.
Yes. We'll see.
Yep. I mean, again, he's got a pretty good, solid young wide receiving core. I'm not mad at it. He just needs guys to perform to where he's picked them, basically, and he'll be okay. And then he, depending on where he invests money into in the future, maybe he gets a couple of, some veterans on his team as well. So,
yeah, I've been pretty unlucky with those hits in the first round too, right? Vaughn was supposed, like, we were hyped. Everyone was hyping Vaughn. Vaughn was supposed to be the thing.
Yeah, Vaughn too.
Singletary is kind of a man too. So he had some high draft capital, and these things tend to happen. Sometimes you hit and sometimes you don't. And this, like, it sucks when you don't. That's for sure.
Well, he's had a lot of them. I mean, he's got a lot of first rounders on his team. So he's got 6 more than I do. Smith Jr. has some upside, but needs to perform as Conklin is waiting in the wings. Ben, as a Minnesota guy, what are you hearing about, Irv Smith Jr.
Shut the fuck up. Who the fuck is saying that?
I hear it. I get mixed reviews. I hear different things from different analysts and blah, blah, blah. I'm just kind of, Irv Smith is obviously a real talent. I'm just,
Yeah, Conklin is going to get maybe at best, like some of that Kyle Rudolph work. I don't know. They go 2 tight end sets. Probably if like the third wide receiver spot's like not working out, but
are you betting money that Smith Jr. is a top 10 tight end this year?
Yes.
You are. Okay. Do you want to take a $25 wager on today's show that Irv Smith is not in the top 25 next year or this year?
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll put
my
money with him.
Bet accepted.
And I'm not as high as most people are on him, which is actually crazy. I think he's expected to be a top 10 tight end.
So I would like to know what Dan thinks about Njoku, because he made a comment after I traded him. So I would like.
Yeah, I think that was an absolute. I don't understand why he required Njoku at $74 for 2 years. That's in my notes. I don't get it. So go ahead.
So what are we talking about, Njoku?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's terrible.
I'm pretty sure I paid somebody to take that contract off of me.
Yeah, I was like, why would he trade it? So he traded. I can't remember what happened. Who was the trade with?
Roman, right?
Yeah.
Good job. No, I would. Yeah.
I don't know. Are you guys high on Hooper? I don't think he's shown much the first year.
I don't think. The problem
they
with
also
David,
have the second. They have like a good rookie too. Like
I tell you what, the problem with David Njoku is he can't catch. So that's his problem. And then coaches do not have a lot of patience if you can't catch. So it looks great when you make a great catch, because all these guys are really talented. They can make great catches. But when you're dropping 50% of the balls, they don't care how great the other couple are.
Yeah, and he's not an elite blocker either. So it's like he's a goddamn liability, and you just
the guy
gets
that
open and catches it.
The guy that I like on Cleveland's the guy that I traded for. Harrison Bryant. I think he's the future star tight end on that team.
I like that.
I think he's going to have to wait for Hooper to play out his contract, but I think it's going to be those 2 guys for a little while. I think Njoku's an odd man out, and I wouldn't have traded for that contract.
Awesome, boys. Thanks for contributing there. Always makes my analysis better when I have some help, so appreciate it. I said he has a serviceable DT room on cheap contracts. He's got solid DNs in Hendrickson and Graham on expiring contracts, and Fowler has potential to have a big year. I said, can Darrell Taylor take a leap forward this year? Chances are Hendrickson doesn't repeat last year's performance. So that's how I feel about his DNs. I think Darrell Taylor is an interesting prospect, but he's kind of like third or fourth on the depth chart. So if he can take a step up, I think that's a good young player to keep your eye on. Linebackers led by his two Titans and Jay and Brown and Bud Dupree, who is a recent signing. I put Will Tate Crowder contribute, and I guess I put perhaps move on from one of the Titans linebackers to diversify a little bit because he has three of them on his team, I think, if I'm correct. He has Bud Dupree, he has Jay and Brown, and then he has David Long. So I would just try to make some sort of neutral trade and get someone else on a different team. But that's just how I view it. Obviously, if someone gets hurt, then that strategy is not a great one. I said we'll take Crowder contribute. We'll see. So he's not.
Yeah,
he's not.
I've seen a lot of guys doing that strategy this year, like getting 2, 3, 4 linebackers from the same team. Georgia did it. He did it. I saw a few of the guys doing the same thing as well. Interesting. It's a new trend.
Yep. I got solid safeties in Jackson, Mathau, and then I put 2 decent prospects in Perkins and Asaya on the taxi squad. Overall, the team is just kind of meh. As I said, I think it's a middle to low end team with limited upside and not real upside potential. What the hell? Blowing up my podcast here. What the fuck? Sorry about that, guys.
It's all right, Corey.
I'm worried.
You.
And then I put he has decent draft capital, and he has about $300 worth of expiring contracts next year. I'm just not sure what his plan is long term, and I prefer to have Mighty Orphans over him. So that's where I left it. Sorry, Hometown Heroes. I know you're a Chicago boy. If you want to send me Mooney, I'll overpay for it based off of my analysis of your team, buddy. That's it, boys. We made it through. I appreciate you all doing that analysis. I'm sure the guys
Division
love
winners,
doing...
Corey. Don't forget the division winners.
All right, we can do it.
And losers.
I think the division winner is probably Vito. I put my money on him. He's going to find a way to do it, and I would put. I don't know if I even looked at the loser because I'm just not that type of guy. It's not going to be Jason. I can tell you
Save
that.
it.
I'll just throw it out there and I'll say Hometown Heroes. I don't know. I just think he's in trouble, but we'll see. So you guys probably have a better analysis of that. What do you think, Ben?
I think hometown's at the end for me too, man. I don't necessarily like Rams in Michigan. I wanted a lot like their teams, but they got a plan. I know what their plan is. We have a strategy. They're executing it. I don't understand what hometown's got going on. So
yeah, that's kind of where I was at too. It's
also
just
got a couple guys I'm super down on that I'll get to later. He's got 2 of the guys on my list, so we will get to that.
Awesome.
And then for the winner, I'm going to say Fleece. That roster is fucking good. He's a good owner. I think Vito's right. I think he's going to be a problem. You're going to get him in the playoffs and wish you didn't.
Yeah, but
I see Fleece as well. Number 1.
It could be one or
With
one or
a
two.
close to Dan second.
Awesome. Dan, you've kind of already contributed to that. Who did you think the winner and losers were quickly?
Yeah, I feel, I've kind of felt like it's probably a 2-man race, but I'm going to have to give Fleece the edge. I think that offense is really, really strong. I think, things can happen, and I play him at the end of the year, so I think it'll be a fun race to the end of the year.
That'll be a good matchup.
And then I think there's a group of guys that could, on average, 3 teams are going to make it from each division. It doesn't have to be that way. So, you got a group of teams in there that are going to be fighting for another spot, and there's some teams in there that if things bounce their way, they could happen. And as far as the losers down, I didn't really look and see who really I thought. I know I said I think Baltimore is basically probably playing building for next year, and with the no corners and the draft picks and things. And then you never know who's going to feel like, you know what, maybe, you know, this ain't my year. So it's hard to say who's going to finish last because you may have a couple of guys sell off a few assets and whatnot. But
that's a good point. Well, we got about 15 minutes left, boys. I want to kind of jump into the bus segment. Ben, do you want to give your top three quickly, and we'll just go from there. And depending on how much time we have, just keep it going.
Yeah, I had like 5 just in case because I didn't know who you guys were going to pick, and you kind of already went over one of them, which I don't want to talk about again, which is Josh Jacobs. They're doing a 1A, 1B thing there, etc. Like, I just don't think he's proven he's going to be good enough. I think as a long-term asset, the fact that he's in the top 24 in Dynasty, I just disagree with it strongly. I mean, sure, 1 year we might get out of it, but like, I'm not looking to acquire him anywhere in Dynasty. I'll tell you that. After that, I had a couple linebackers that we don't totally have to go into, but I think Levante David I've been seeing still in the top 24. And in Dynasty, I just think that's wrong. Like, I get it for this year. I got moved on from him and got that Chandler Jones contract because I think there's a good chance Levante David either has to go to a back roll or he might have to be a journeyman, go to another system. He still could be good, man. I mean, he's really good at football. But I think the Bucs are building that team to move on from him. It just looks like they are. So I don't like him super long term. That's actually why I moved on from him in the trade. They had Van Der Esch at 24. I think that just hasn't been updated. That doesn't make sense. Although I saw Van Der Esch is 24 years old. It's
wow.
With the uncertainty with the neck and all that. That's just a coin flip. And
Van Der Esch over Kendricks.
Yeah,
Kendricks is like ranked 65 or something like that.
It's 39. Fucking kidding me? Killing me. Oh, so the 2 guys that were on Hometown's teams that I have are Brandon Graham. He's 33. I think his days are numbered with Josh Sweat, but I won't go into that because I already talked about how much I like Josh Sweat. Even though Roman's finally on the podcast, he doesn't like Josh Sweat as much as I do, even though they have a defensive coordinator that came from the Vikings, and he fits the bill. Josh Sweat fits the bill. He's exact same athletic as measurables as Brian Burns. He's going to face fuck the league, Roman. I don't care what you say. And he's on your team.
I don't sweat that one.
Look at the analysis and brain on Frenchie. Love it.
And the other one was Trey Hendrickson, which I just don't understand. That's really like on his youth and like what he did last year. But I saw a really interesting statistic, which was a good one for Cam Jordan. Cam Jordan, I think, had 3 lost sacks, which they attribute basically you push the quarterback into another guy. That should be your sack. You don't get the credit. And Hendricks got those 3. So it's like he had some good sack numbers, but like he didn't do anything. He just sat there while Cam Jordan just pushed him into him. So like now he's on that new team in Cincinnati. He's not going to have somebody. I mean, unless Hubbard has a real recovery. I just don't see Trey Hendricks being that good this year, and I don't see him as a top 24. That's like, I don't see that at all.
Nicely done, Ben. Dan, do you have any busts, or do you want me to go? I'm happy to go.
No, I'm gonna just throw one name out there that I was wanting to look at, but I didn't put the stats on him or anything. I think Saquon Barkley will disappoint again this year. I think they're going to be real careful with him, as they should be. I don't think he's going to bell cow it, at least for the first part of the season. So I don't think he'll finish as high as you would think he should. I know that he'll get picked up. You know, I got a draft coming up, and I know he'll be in the top 6 picks. And I don't think he's going to be. I think he's going to very underperform that. But beyond that, it's all you.
Corey, if you don't mind, I have 2 names.
No, let me go first, Roman, because you're gonna love this, and I didn't know you were gonna be on the show today, but it's gonna seem like I'm picking on you, and I had no idea. This is how I feel. I put Mr. DeAndre Swift as a bust, and here is why. He's currently listed in the top 10 at position number 8 in the dynasty rankings I saw. They brought in Jamal Williams on a 2-year deal. They also drafted a guy in the 7th round in Jefferson. They also brought in Gurley and have kind of, looked at other free agents, and you just kind of have to ask yourself why at that point. They have a putrid offense, right? And I don't think it's going to look good this year and, probably even next year. I think this is kind of a make it or break it year to see if he's actually a 3-down back or if he's more of a 10 to 15, touch per game kind of guy. I mean, he flashed last year in some situations, but I don't think he's a true edge. I don't think he's a, first and second down between the tackles type runner. I think he's more of an edge rusher. And I'd rather have CEH, Harris, Gibson, and Dobbins. And I could easily see him finishing outside the top 20 this year. And so that's what I wrote, about Swift. Do you want to retort that, Frenchie?
No, I mean, I can see why, and I don't disagree. I'm a little bit higher than you on Swift, but
8 seems high, though. I mean, it seems really high.
That's pretty high.
Dynasty rankings wise, I just don't see how
He was fucking good in college, Con. He was good in college.
Oh yeah. I mean, anyway. Also, your boy Matt Waldman had released a couple things about why he didn't think he was a between the tackles runner. Had a lot of areas of improvement. And that's why they brought in Jamal Williams for that role, as kind of to hit the 0-1 and 2 gaps. And I mean, he can get to the edge and be explosive. I think he's amazing in the passing game if he can catch the ball like he didn't do against the Bears. But it's again, I think it's. You could see Detroit being pretty shitty for a long time to come, and I hope he either moves on and finds a different team, or he becomes a 3-down back and gets more touches. But we'll see what
Corey,
happens.
wouldn't you argue if Detroit's constantly behind by 21 to 28 points that there's going to be a receiving back on the field the entire time getting catches?
I mean that's a good point. Yep.
Well,
they're also going to try to run the ball a shitload, so you could see.
I don't know about 8, but it's risky.
Yeah, but if you get 7 points in a game and 5 receptions late, and you get 50 total yards or 60 total yards, it's not bad, but it's not top 8 dynasty. And,
No, I agree with you.
And then the second one I had, you want to do one, Roman? We have time. We can loop this in.
My boss is Cam Akers. I think he's gonna have a hard time to be relevant this year with an Achilles tear.
God, man, I knew we got him back for a reason. This is stellar.
Oh, I did feel bad for you. I did feel bad for you, Roman. I was working out in the gym and I saw that. And I just you gave up the first round pick after it's a terrible.
No, I gave up Jody to move up to 101, and I gave up Paris to get Akers. That's what happened.
It was Judy and Harris for Akers. Questionable at the time, anyway, even pre-injury, right? Now it's.
I thought it was all right.
Yeah, I'm sure you did, Ben.
And my second one.
I got Judy.
Yeah, you got Judy asshole. And my second one is Darrell Anderson, because I think he's going to be given the opportunity to produce. But I'm not a believer at all. He hasn't shown much in 2 years. I know he got hurt the first year and he hasn't played much, but last year
he was a top 24 back last year when he was in the starting role. A top 24 back.
He's explosive. He's a guy that I know he can break.
Pre-injury, he was a top 24 back in the starting role. So I mean, they're not, from what I'm reading, they're not bringing anybody else in. That could be coach speak. We don't know. He was going to be, I think, more involved than what you were thinking he was going to be. I think he was going to be 30, 40%. Even if he bumps that to 65% this year, I think he's a legit, RB2. That's how I look at it. I would draft him. Would you rather have Montgomery or Darrell Henderson? Montgomery or Darrell Henderson?
Montgomery? Like what?
Montgomery?
Or what about Miles Gaskin or Darrell Henderson?
Gaskin?
I would rather have Darrell Henderson.
I don't know if I can go there, but I'm just going to tell you right now, the playoff run that Penn State's going to have with old Xavier on his team, he's going to be the number 1 after Darrell Henderson can't cut it, baby.
Yeah, I mean,
got to fill that taxi squad.
No, I think he's going to bring someone.
They could. I think Le'Veon Bell makes a lot of sense. Le'Veon Bell makes a lot of sense, and that's a complete LA move, right? They bring in a big name guy that's like,
Yeah, He can do everything that I know, McVay wants to do, but McVay doesn't like. Doesn't like.
Do you know who
athletes.
big winner is though? Corey, because he's invested heavily in the pass receiving core of Higbee, Van Jefferson, and all things Rams passing attack. So I don't think you could call that a win for sure.
Corey popping champagne over injuries. Look at this guy go.
No, I mean that's the game we play, right? It's the game we play.
Right.
Anybody else have any more busts? Next week we have one more league to review, calling out some owners to be on that. I can't remember which division it is that we still have left. It's like the bottom one, right? The last one
right now. It's the MAC. The MAC.
Conference. Hopefully we'll get one of those owners. I need some better Ask Sal segment requests from any of the viewers. I want to keep that going. If anybody wants to jump on and have a couple beers with Sal, the personality, I'd appreciate that. It was fun doing it with Georgia. More of a shoot the shit kind of feel to things. And then we're going to keep this rolling. Make sure everybody goes and checks out the new website. Dan obviously put a lot of work into that. Be nice to your commish always. Don't call him the see you next Tuesday at any point in the season. I don't know. What else you guys got? Anything?
It was great talking to the commish, man. Meeting him. This is awesome.
Glad to
Thanks
finally
for
get
coming,
to talk
Dan.
to you guys. See if I look over my notes if I forgot something that I really wanted to talk
Dan
about.
also said he wasn't feeling all that great today, so we appreciate you even more for coming on and you've been sick for
coming
4
off
days, and
coming
you're
off
in
5
Arkansas heat and sweaty,
cold.
and you probably got some ball stank going, and it's just uncomfortable experience being in the hot lights of the Dynasty podcast. So we appreciate
Yeah,
you.
nice to
buddy.
have Roman back on with a little of his chime in analysis. I liked it.
We miss Frenchie always. He's always welcome, and we want you to.
What do you think about the logo? Did you see the logo?
I was having
got
some
on the
technical
site.
difficulties. Hadn't had a chance to really to look at it, but be prepared to get some nasty reviews on the chat, Dan.
Yeah, had that one made.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for all the hard work you put in. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, guys. Thank you.
All right, boys. Until next time, we are the Dynasty Brothers, and this is the Dynasty Podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed the show, and go fuck yourselves. Bye.
Bye.